Hey, Sal.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Ah.
Nice and clear.
I'm hooked up this time through my phone. I've connected my phone to this meeting. So it's coming through clearly now.
Yes.
That sounds
excellent.
better, Tony.
And
What's that, Doug?
Sounds a lot better. And there's no feedback. And the other thing is your picture is smoother, so you're not chopping up and interrupting. So far it's a good solution.
Great. That was really frustrating in that last meeting because I was saying things and obviously you weren't hearing them, and then I couldn't hear people responding to me. And you'll note that we have on our agenda tomorrow an item on broadband. I have a particular interest in it. So
we are live, everybody.
Thank you, Kristen.
You're welcome.
We've still got 4 minutes. Okay, just going to get a quick glass of water.
Tony,
who's
I'm
it up?
still trying to get the YouTube code embedded on our website. So just bear with me for a few minutes. Oh, okay.
Will Sacristan?
We are good to go from the live streaming perspective.
Okay. So we have 1, 2, 3. Okay, we have one. I'm going to call this meeting to order. So 4.1, I need a resolution pursuant to Ministerial Order number 4192, moved by Director Weeb, seconded by Director Birch-Jones. Call a question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
Sorry, Chair, I'm sorry, did I miss the approval of the agenda?
Where? Thank you very much. Approve the agenda, please. Moved by Director Ray, seconded by Director Demare. Call a question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. There you go.
Thank you.
Written report. We've got one thing to bring in this point, Melanie, the Horizon report. Oh boy.
Yes, thank you, Chair Rainbow. In relation to the, Kristen, have you got the wording of that actual resolution there?
I have something, yes, 1 second, please. That staff apply for a tenure of the Crown land adjacent to the Riverside Park.
Thank you. Moved by Director Birch-Jones, second Director Richmond. Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
And so, sorry, there was also the other one that was embedded, so pertaining to the terms of reference. The approval of the terms of reference for the Pemberton Valley Emergency Management Committee, that rising report was embedded in that. So that one has also been risen and reported on.
So that's moved by Director Richmond, seconded by Director Demare. Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. We'll move on to the consent agenda. Is there anything that anybody wants pulled from the consent agenda? Director Ford, seconded by Director Richmond. For the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Any business arising from the minutes? Hearing none. We go down to 9. Recommendations. 9.1.1, request for a decision, soccer field number 2, Village of Pemberton. Moved by Director Richmond, seconded by Director.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Thank you. Question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. 9.1.2, request for decision, Porker Mountain Bike Skills Park, Village of Pemberton. We've got a whole series of VATs there.
Moved.
Yeah, and I'll second that.
Okay. Any discussion? Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. I'm still getting some feedback. So, 1.3, direction request, electoral area C, Crown tenure application, Blacktail Meadows.
Move that. Open for questions.
Yeah, and I'll second that.
It's a move. Any comments? No? Okay. I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. 9.1.4, direction request, Clover Road extension. Moved by Director Richmond.
And I'll second that.
Maybe if
That's it.
you want, I know there was some questions from some directors on this. I can give a quick summary if.
Yeah, please do.
So, I mean, basically, the conversation at the PU's table on this was whether, there's a few aspects to it. One of the main ones is there enough value in this extension and this river access to warrant the cost? Because it dead ends at the river, but it is river access, which is important. But that was one of the considerations, and the other is impact to neighbors, as we've had some of the neighbors come forward and raise concerns about their farming operations and otherwise. So the previous resolution on this, or the direction for staff, was to reach out and get some referral comments on the first part of it from Pemberton Valley Trails Association and Stewardship Pemberton. I think that's all we referred it to. Yeah, to see, how they feel about the value of the project, where it fits in the Trails Association's sort of priority list. And as well, staff was asked to reach out to neighbors to better understand potential impacts of this trail, and then to bring it back at budget time. So, and I've responded to at least one or two of the property owners to let them know that as well, that they will be hearing from staff at some point, and that it's basically on hold right now, and those are the considerations.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions for the Director?
So I'll move it as presented.
And I'll second it.
We already did that. I'm going to call the question now. Favor?
Okay.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, so 9.2. Ask for decision, Marmot Lake land use contract discharge. Kim, you're here to speak to that or just to answer questions? Any questions for Kim? Have a motion for that then, please. We've got 3 that's Director Crompton. Director DeMere, did you want to say something?
No, just make the motion.
Okay, thank you. It carries. 9.2.2, Ponderosa Lakes land use contract.
And I will move that.
Moved by Director Max. Director DeMere. Any questions or comments? Any questions of staff? Any comments? I'll call the question. All in favor? 2.3, request for decision, Leszczynski Gun Lake Area A, DVP application number 151. So we've got okay, Matt. Director Birch Jones. I saw your hand up.
Just to move it.
To move it, moved by Director Birch Jones,
Yeah, I'll second it.
seconded by questions of staff. Any comments? Director Race.
Thank you. This came before us a couple of months ago, and my recollection is the concern was that it would be turned into a living space. Are we satisfied that we can enforce the covenant or administer the covenant? Is that really a solution to this? Sort of a question
Kim?
for staff.
Yeah, through the
Kim, can you-
chair. Yes, and we've done similar covenants on other garages in the Gun Lake area.
Director Richmond.
And further to that, so that would be enforced by complaint, or how is that covenant? How do we make sure? Is that just if somebody complains that it is being used illegally, then we would inspect, or these are?
Yeah, as per board bylaw inspection and enforcement policy, we would do it on a complaint basis.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? Yeah, I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Point 2.4. Request for decision, Northern Development Trust grant writing support. Director Demir.
I'll have to declare a conflict of interest as my daughter works for the BRVCA and my wife is a director on the board.
Thank you. Kristen, can you put Director Demir in the waiting room, please? Okay, thank you. Could I have a motion on this, please?
Yeah, I'll move this.
Well, I had Director Weed first and seconded by Director Mack. Any questions?
I see Patricia.
I'm sorry, Director Burns-Jones?
Just I see Patricia's here. I'm really pleased that this application has gone in. Thank you, Patricia, and Lori too.
Great. I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, 9.2.5, request for decision, Electoral Area C, Agriculture Advisory Committee, Terms of Reference Amendment.
Okay, I'll move. Do we do the first that and then the second one?
Sorry.
Hold on just a minute.
Sorry, I'm just going to let Sal back in.
Director Mayor back in.
Just 1 second, please. Okay, thank you.
I've lost Director Mack now.
Okay, Chair.
There we are.
Yep. Can we do both? I guess we have to do each that separately.
Yeah, you've got to do the first that, and then the second one.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll move the first that.
So that's reading for a first, second, and third time.
Yes.
Seconded by Director Rhodes has a question. Go ahead. No? Okay.
Just seconding.
Okay, thank you. Any comments or questions? Any questions of staff? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay. Are you ready then that I move the second that?
Yes?
Okay, I'm moving that.
So good. Any questions or comments? Director Richmond? No?
No, I was just seconding.
Okay, thank you. Okay, seeing none, then I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Valley Beach Playground. This is approval for funding coming out of Electorate Area D gas tax funds, which and Suzanne has determined that it's a motion to. I guess I could move that. I'll move that.
I'll second that.
Director Mack. Any questions? Director Elliott.
I don't have a question, but I do have a comment, and that is that I hope that there's some attention paid to accessibility when we're building new playgrounds for kids of different abilities.
Yeah, we don't have stuff here right now. I wasn't anticipating that question, but we did have.
It's not a question, it's a comment.
Comment. Well, we got at Britannia at the site with staff and with a community group. And that was discussed. Yes. Okay, any other comments? Or? All questions? Motion carries. 9.2.7 request of funding Ponderosa Strata Community Urban Interface Wildfire Mitigation funding.
And I'll move that.
Comments or questions? All question, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, now we're going to bylaws. 10.1, request for decision, SLRD development approval information fees and 14, an amendment bylaw. Yeah. Kim, do you want to introduce this or talk to this, or just be questions?
Yeah, this is just a bylaw that's meant to update our fees to address some ALC changes.
Questions of Kim? Okay, hearing none. I'll call a question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Well,
So that was for the first that, Chair?
okay. Yeah, I'm just looking now. Yeah, that's first, second, and third time, and now we need a motion for adoption.
Okay, I'll move that.
Move Dr. Matt, second. Motion carries. Now we need a pointer. This is the item that Melanie spoke to earlier that actually shouldn't be in this section because it's not a bylaw, but we just leave it here just so that the meeting flows. So we need a decision, comprehensive development permit number 161, Britannia Oceanfront Developments Corporation commercial project. Did Kim leave us? No. Oh no, she is. There she is. Yeah.
Did you want me to speak to this?
Kim, do you have it? Maybe just give us a brief summary. Yeah.
Sure. So this is for the Britannia Oceanfront Development Corporation's project that is proposed down on Copper Drive in Britannia Beach. It's their redevelopment that includes some new buildings and some preservation of the existing heritage structures that are there. This project is important and especially what needs to happen is the buildings need to be raised and foundations need to be put in place so that the fill can be brought in, and that is all part of the flood protection system that's proposed for that area. You'll see the plans for this project attached. The development includes I guess the improvement and prettying up of some of the buildings down there. They're going to be made more structurally sound, but essentially the heritage character will still be conveyed. There's parking provided for all of the commercial. There's also some residential units contained within that area as well. Yeah, all the complete drawing set and landscaping set is included in your package. So typically for most development permits, I have authority for approval. However, for buildings that are larger and over 500 square meters, they are meant to come to the board. So that's why this is here.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Kim? Okay.
Did you say my name? I didn't hear you.
I did, yes.
Director Needham, in terms of solid waste, it talks about curbside pickup and recycling, but then it talks about centralized commercial waste. So there's only a small portion of residential in this area.
Yeah, so there is a common waste and recycling facility on the site.
For residential?
Yeah, it'll be for residential and commercial.
And commercial, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Kim? Okay. So we could do 1, 2. So have somebody move that. Moved by Director Race, seconded by Director DeMayor. Any further comments or questions? Call the question, all in favor? Point 3, request for decision, Whistler Sports Legacy Society zoning amendment application for WOP for the campground. So we're looking at reading this for so reading for the third time. Any have somebody propose that? Moved by Director Race, seconded by Director Crompton. Any questions or comments for Kim? Questions for Kim? Director Race?
Not a question, a comment. But I think this this proposed use in this area is appropriate. It's consistent with the winter activities. It's recreation oriented. It is, I think, one of the things that the park is intended for. I spend a fair amount of time up there in the wintertime, but I think there also is a summer season that they have to cater to and will want to cater to. And this is consistent with why I'm supporting this.
Thank you. Director Ford?
Overall, I think that campgrounds are good, but in this case, the LMRP, the Land Use and Recreation Plan, I believe it's called, or the Land Management Recreation Plan, many years ago requested that some reviews were done. And so I would really like to see those reviews done, such as a forage and travel pattern for the wildlife that move in the area, because it wasn't contemplated for summer activity back then. We do know that there are grizzlies in the area, but there's more to it than just the grizzly movements. This legitimization of a campground in an area really just kind of moves people to seek further afield and less formal camp areas. And so I think we need to take seriously the requests of the Coast to Cascade Grizzly group in their letter. I'd also really like to understand, and hopefully we can get this information back prior to any major changes, what their staffing plans look like and how they will complement and work with the already under-resourced Conservation Officer Service. I know that the Conservation Office is always strained under very tight resourcing, And this is now kind of opening more use, more legitimized use, but a different user group than was using this area. So I really want to understand how we're going to support the Conservation Office. I know that it's not the mandate of the SLRD to support them or to resource them. This organization needs to take seriously the resourcing for that. It's not just garbage, it's food intense, it's all kinds of different use that isn't currently necessarily being managed well. And so we want to take that seriously. And the other piece is that to put a significant user group in an area where there is relatively inadequate fire service. I mean, there's provincial wildfire service, and there's the Whistler Fire and Rescue, and there's the SLRD outfit in Area D, which is great. But we really want to understand how those resources come together and support this. So it's a lot of comments, but it's something that I'm quite concerned about. I can certainly be compelled, but I just wanted to put all of those out on the table.
Thank you. Any other comments? Director Crompton.
I'm going to vote in favor. I believe there is work to do to understand how we're going to use this area in the future, and I hope that we will do that work moving forward. I agree with many of the comments made by my colleague, and I think that there's an opportunity for us to do this right, and I expect Whistler Sport Legacies is going to do a great job running a campground, but certainly there will be people further out into the backcountry and a professional, well-resourced operation like Whistler Sport Legacies. I think the right kind of organization to do it. And my hope is that as we move forward, we do some planning around what else is perceived in the future of that area, especially as it relates to the summer. Thank you.
Thank you. Judge Elliott.
I will support the motion. I think that we need more regularized camping in this corridor. Certainly this summer was a display of what happens when our corridor is overloved and people are in places that they shouldn't be, and the impact that has and the risks it has. So I think the oversight of Whistler Sports Legacy to put this in place, to create a funding stream to help protect and preserve the longevity of our Olympic assets is important. And I think it also gives us an opportunity for education in regards to the area that people are camping in and why it is so important. So whether that's the environmental aspect or the wildfire risk aspect, I think when we have these touch points, when people are in campgrounds, we have an opportunity to create a better visitor and less of an impact. So I am supportive of this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments? Okay. Kristen, did I get this moved and seconded? I think I did, yeah. Okay. So, opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you. 10.4, request for decision, permissive tax exemption bylaw 16.
Sorry, Chair. I had that as the first that.
Oh, I'm sorry, I jumped it again. Kristen, thank you very much. Yeah. It'd be so much easier when you're sitting next to me because you can just jab your elbow. Okay, sorry, we just read that a third time, so now I need
I'll move to second that, Tony.
So, Matt, thank you very much for the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay.
So now I'll slide along to the tax exemption bylaw. Director Mack, do you have something to say?
No, I was just talking about the previous.
Oh,
Director Ford would like to comment.
No, go ahead, Jack.
I'd like to make a motion that follows on from our last item, if that is acceptable.
it's perfectly acceptable.
Okay. So, sorry, I had it here. I'd like to make the resolution that it be resolved the SLRD undertake a holistic sub-area planning process for the Callahan Valley in consultation with the SLRD RGS working group.
I'll second that as Area D Director. I think that's a great idea. Director Elliott.
You're muted.
Once we have something seconded, I always thought that, there's no room for questions because staff can't get involved in the debate. And so okay. Director Crompton's put something on the floor and now it's been seconded, but I have questions about this and what it means and the implications and what does it do to our budget and how much time would it take? And so where do I get to ask those questions?
I'd be
and shouldn't it be referred to committee of the whole so that we understand the impact rather than just passing this motion on the fly here?
Director Race.
Yeah, thank you. And I have the long story. I'm not going to go into it, but some concern about motions that come off the floor without sort of a staff lens going on it. I don't think this is time sensitive. I generally agree with the thought, but I would refer it to staff to come back to us next month with sort of the parameters of that. First of all, the staff resources required, the budget required, et cetera, and any other concerns around that. And then we can have sort of a question period before we actually make the decision. I think that to me would be just a better step in the process.
Director Thompson.
If my seconder is willing, yep, would be happy to refer to a committee of whole, and it doesn't have to happen quickly, but at some point, the resolution or the consideration of a holistic sub-area planning process for the Callahan Valley.
Yeah, when we spoke about this earlier, that the intent is to move this forward to the point where it can be considered as part of the work that we're going to be doing going forward, and when we get to a discussion of priorities, which I'll be addressing later, then we add this to the mix. So my intent was to not let this get forgotten, just to note it, that it's something that we want to consider as we move forward.
Speaking to the motion, I would just say the intention was to do that, and I am sorry I misspoke because the chair had agreed to my original resolution, so my failure.
Mine as well. So where do we stand with this? Have you just modified what you said to?
Referred it to the committee, to a future committee of the whole, distant future.
Fine. So I'll call the question on that then. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Good. Thank you, Director Compton. Now, Wim, we're finally going to get to this tax exemption by the looks of things. Director Mack, do you have something to say, or?
No, I'm fine.
Move it.
So you want to move it then?
Are you talking to me, Tony?
Yeah, are you moving this?
Yeah, I'll move it.
Move it, and seconded by Director DeMare. Director Rice?
Thank you. And I oppose this every year, and I'll have to continue to do this and oppose these types of things in Squamish too. And my perspective, tax exemptions are for something that's a charitable or near charitable activity, and a sports club is not that. So we're opposing this resolution.
Director Richmond?
As we've discussed in the past, just to be clear, that this is a base for Pemberton Wildlife Association to collect funds and do work as well. So that's the rationale. And that's why I support it.
Any further comment? Okay, I call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Okay, Kristen, I've got one opposed. Director Race? Thank you. Motion carries. Okay. And we need adoption. We need to adopt that. We've just passed first, second, and third. So move to adopt. Director Mack, second.
I'll move it.
Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Okay.
Sorry, was that Director Race opposed?
Yes, it was. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, financial plan bylaw, amendment bylaw 1691-2020. Look at that one there. Yes. Suzanne, did you want to speak to this, or just if anybody has questions?
I can speak to it quickly. So this amendment basically looks at the 2019 actual figures, and anything that's over the budgeted expenditure line, we have to make an amendment to the bylaw. So even if it's just for a small amount of interest transferred to the capital reserve, which is an annual normal transaction, I do have to adjust for that transfer and the interest, which is mostly what these adjustments are for, the different interest rates that I did. For the budget, I did probably put the interest too low for this year, for 2019. And so if anybody has any specific questions, though, on a service adjustment, I can take them now.
So, Suzanne, if the interest were lower than you had projected, would you still have to change the bylaw?
No. It's just
okay.
if expenses go above the budgeted line.
Okay. Any other questions for Suzanne? Okay, can I have that moved, first and third reading?
I'll move that.
Second, Director Mack. Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. And then I need adoption. So Director Mack moves adoption, seconded by Director DeMare. Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Requested adoption of SORD Pemberton District Transfer Station Loan Authorization.
And I'll move that.
And I think, Graham, would you want to speak to that, or just, do you think it's necessary to speak to it, or do you just answer some questions if we have any?
Thank you, Chair. I can just answer questions if there are any, or I can speak to it either way.
Any questions for Graham on this item? Oh, I guess we're satisfied with the report, Graham. Thank you very much. So it's moved by Director Mack, seconded by Director DeMare. I call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Great. So now we're into 11. CAO verbal. Okay, Melanie.
Thank you, Chair Rainbow. The first thing is just to let the board know that Chair Rainbow and I had a discussion about UBCM. And at the time we were preparing this agenda, we had not yet had the provincial election. And now we're still waiting for the writ of election to be returned. So we thought that the follow-up actions coming out of the UBCM meeting would be better deferred until November as well, so that we can be looking at what our new government looks like and how we would like to move forward with the priorities that were addressed in September. So that the intent is that that would come back next month. The next thing that I wanted to bring to the board's attention is that November is the election for our chair and vice chair. And this is going to be a little bit different now in our current Zoom meeting format. Our corporate officer has used us as guinea pigs, and we've done a trial to see how it works. And we do have the ability to, very similar to what you would do at UBCM, where there's a poll and you're able to then select without anybody seeing your choices who it is you would like. And that information is then returned to Kristen and myself to look at, and we don't see who voted for who. We just see the total number of votes and the percentage of votes that were awarded to each of the people that's nominated. So in the event that we have an election and not an acclamation for either or both of those positions, that's what's going to happen is you'll receive on your screen the poll information. It will only go to those individuals who are eligible to vote. In other words, the directors, not the staff members and not the public. And then you guys will click on your choice and submit it. And when it's submitted, that information then gets forwarded to us. The corporate officer will be able to announce the results. And if there's a majority, then we have a result. And if we have a need to, then we would have that as an iterative process until the decision is made. And then we would do the same thing for the vice chair. So if there were any questions or comments on that for either Kristen or myself, this would be a good time to discuss that.
Thank you. Director Mayor.
How does the nomination process work?
So the nomination process will be pretty much the same as what you've typically done, that you would nominate someone. We'll see if they are agreeable to the nomination, and then their name will stand, and we'll continue that until we know there are no further nominations.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Director Race.
What happens in the case of a tie? Is there a mechanism for breaking that tie?
There is. I think, Kristen, I'll let you speak to that because it's specific to our organization.
Thank you. We don't actually, like, we would then just have to redo the vote. We don't have really developed procedures in our procedure bylaw for that. So if we had a 5-5 vote, we would then just have to vote again. And if people would either change their votes or we would just keep voting.
Ah. Okay.
You just keep voting. Keep voting.
Somebody passes out and the rest of us vote.
Presumably people would not, if everyone continued to vote the same, then we would get nowhere.
Agreed.
So we would take a little recess and then come back and then we would vote again.
Okay, well, let's deal with that problem when we get to it. Okay. Melanie.
And sorry, we do need 6 to you know, a 5-5 is still not the 6 needed to be elected. So if that's helpful.
Yeah.
Can someone abstain? No.
No.
Okay. It's got to be one way or the other. Okay. And if there's 3 people,
Okay.
and it goes 3, 3, 4.
We still need somebody with 6. So then we don't, somebody could drop out, but there's no way of making, we don't have the ability to drop that 3rd place finisher off. So they could take their name off and then we would vote on the 2.
Okay. Thank you. Melanie, back to you.
Thank you, Chair. The last thing that I had is to recommend to the board that we hold a special meeting on Monday, December the 7th at 9 a.m., which will then go to in camera to look at a contract award.
Okay. Do we have a, with regard to that last point, Director Richmond? Richmond?
I was just going to move that we have the special meeting. That takes a motion, doesn't it?
Yes, thank you. Second by Director Birch-Jones. So, call the question on that. All in favour? Opposed? Motion carries. And then I need a resolution to accept the CEO report. Moved by Director Race, seconded by Director Richmond. All in favour? Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Now we've got information report, month development applications. You've got the report there. Do you have any questions for Kim or for Kim or for Claire? Have a motion to accept that report. Moved by Director Race, seconded by Director Compton. Call the question. All in favour? Opposed? Motion carries. 7.3, Metro Vancouver Industrial Land Strategy Referral Review and Response. Okay, Director Race and then Director Elliott.
Sorry, Chair, it was just on the previous motion. I just wanted to pass on to staff, even though there was no discussion. For me, those are helpful reports. And that's why maybe there was no discussion. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. Director Elliott?
I just had a question on the Metro Vancouver report, and I'm sorry I did not have a chance to read the whole thing, but does it talk about managing greenhouse gases and emissions as they think about expanding out of the Lower Mainland? Like, are they taking that into account?
Through the chair, the focus of the study was really land-based, and it was trying to ensure that there is sufficient land to meet the industrial needs of Metro Vancouver. There were considerations, I suppose, for like location proximity, having things in good proximity to one another does address some GHG emissions, but it was not necessarily outward facing in terms of the larger system in which sort of the Metro Vancouver's industrial sort of works are contributing towards, if that's what you're getting at.
Yeah, it seems that, you know, in this day and age, we have to stop looking at things in isolation. And so as we think about industrial lands, we have to be thinking about how those lands are connected to the markets they serve. And so I feel like I didn't, in my quick scan of the document, didn't see that explicitly spelled out, that yes, we need to protect our industrial lands, absolutely. But how are we moving goods, materials to those lands and then product off of those lands with a climate lens? And I think for me, that's an important thing to feed back into the process, that if they're going to expand into our areas, what does that mean for us? You know, is it all trucking? I think that would be really bad. Would it be an investment in rail? I think that would be really, really good. And so I feel like for me, that feels like an important thing to add in terms of context is making sure that that Clean BC and climate lens is put across this plan as well.
Excellent. Through the chair, I will offer to staff and the sort of SRD staff were not involved at all in this process. We just received the referral sort of after the strategy was adopted. So there wasn't an opportunity to sort of bring those points forward throughout their review of sort of their land strategy. The recommendation that the SRD has been sort of included in, as you mentioned, Director Elliott, speaks to highway and rail. So there could be an opportunity to further highlight rail as a priority. Otherwise, the SRD really isn't a key player in their industrial lands strategy.
Fair enough, but you know, even that low carbon fuel issue, so whether it's hydrogen powered, you know, heavy duty vehicles or rail, I don't think it would be amiss to sort of say, if you're contemplating this, you really should be thinking about how you're going to move things around.
And if I could just make a comment further to Director Elliott there, the text that we have in our motion is the second of 3 bullets in that report. The bullet is talking about Vancouver Island and Georgia Strait and sea traffic. And when I read that, I thought, how, you know, if you turn right instead of left, you end up going up Howe Sound. Have they considered that? And if they have, what are the implications of that? What would how would Howe Sound Forum feel about that? How would Squamish feel about the expansion of the port there? I think if you're looking at emissions, then shipping is actually quite a reasonable way to move stuff. But of course, there are lots of other considerations. And so I just wondered if there had been any conversation at all about bringing more shipping into this area. It's not something I want to just, you know, see it happen without there being any consultation with us and with other actors in the region. Any other comments? So the question is, do we support the vision and general intentions of that strategy, or do we want to approach this in another way? We want to give some direction to staff to go back at them that we support with certain conditions. Or what's your wish? Director Richmond, then Director Elliott.
I think staff comments should incorporate Director Elliott's comments. I think she makes a good point about transportation. I think that should be included in our response.
Okay, so we need to amend this this suggested motion here. Then we're as it's presented here, we endorse recommendation 32, and then we support the vision and general intention. So we need different wording. Director Elliott.
I think it's important to capture your comment to Director Rainbow, and that I think that our support should be qualified in the fact that we were not consulted, and that there are implications for our regions, and there are also opportunities for our region that could have been part of this report that aren't reflected here. So I actually think we should say that I don't know what to say. I hate doing motions, amending motions on the fly here, but
well, we could just
but maybe a bullet about significant consultation with neighboring regions is required, and that we have to take a systemic lens to ensure that climate change consideration and low carbon transportation are considered at the same time. I'm happy for that to be wordsmithed a bit, but those would be the bullets that I would add.
We could just refer this back to staff and ask staff to come back, with a recommendation reflecting the comments that they've heard today. And then that gives us time then to reconsider rather than rushing something through. Now to get the wording right. Kim.
Yeah, through the chair, I think there may be some time aspects to this referral. Claire may know if there is a deadline for response.
Yeah, so it's through the chair. This report, this wasn't even referred to staff. This came directly to the board in August of 2020, and then the board referred it to staff to review and provide a referral response. So we don't actually have a specific deadline, as it was sort of referred just for general information and endorsement. It's not a part of any timeline that Metro has in terms of adopting the strategy, as it has already been adopted.
Director Race?
Well, I didn't want to lose the, sorry, I didn't want to lose the thought that we want some efficient forms of transportation. I can almost assure you that more commercial traffic in Howe Sound will generate a response from some people who generally don't want to see more commercial or industrial development there. So I think if that is going to happen, there's going to have to be significant consultation. And one of the things is the transportation method and the emissions that might come for it. So the forms of transportation and sea transportation, barges and so forth, or rail is, from my understanding, is very efficient, or can be more efficient than trucking for bulk commodities. But industrial can also be smaller components as well, and so maybe not so much for those ones. So I think that whole vision has to be kind of adjusted in that sense. So my only suggestion would be to say, yeah, we have a strategy with consideration of efficient forms of transportation or something like that. Because I think that's the risk, is not just the industry itself, but the transportation associated with it. Maybe processing it also is appropriate in some areas.
So my suggestion is, instead of trying to chop this around today and come up with some wording, that we ask staff to bring it back to our next meeting and to reflect the discussion that they've heard today. Director DeMare?
I know Area A is not a part of the regional growth strategy, but are industrial lands incorporated into the regional growth strategy?
Claire?
Yes, through the chair, our regional growth strategy doesn't speak to industrial lands explicitly. We do have goals around climate action and transportation that would be particularly relevant. We don't have specific industrial lands generally in the SLRD. There are a few, but typically it's more resource management lands that are located in the electoral areas. And then we have policy to support, from an economic development perspective, the industrial lands of our member municipalities.
Thank you.
Kim?
Just in the interest of time, what I heard is that the board would like a response similar to the SLRD appreciates the referral and suggests that additional regional input should have been included, and that the board suggests that green transportation to and from industrial lands be considered as part of the strategy. Would that sort of address some of the comments that we've heard today?
I think so. Director Elliott?
Thanks, Director Needham. I think that does get very close to it. Although if we put it in the context of recommendation 32, they're suggesting that the province develop the framework. And so I think we have to direct the language at that should this go forward, that the province has to engage deeply with regional districts and consider transportation, and the rest of your wording was, so just shifting the responsibility to who's responsible, because I know Metro Van wouldn't take up that responsibility, which is why they've suggested the province do it in this recommendation. But otherwise, I'm happy with what you've suggested.
Okay, Kim?
So through the chair, what we could do is prepare this language in a letter that could be signed by the chair.
Okay. Okay, so we would need a resolution to support that then. Moved by Director Richmond, seconded by Director Elliott. Any further comment? Yeah, call the question. All in favour? Opposed? Motion carries. Now, where does that leave us with regard to 11.3? With the, do we need to just defer that, or replace those two that's? It does for me, but Director Elliott.
Well, to me, if that language is reflected in our letter, then it's okay to support this motion. I think actually having a framework for how industrial lands will get used in southwestern British Columbia is actually vitally important to our economy. So I'm supportive of this direction. I just want to make it crystal clear that we haven't been consulted yet. We look forward to being consulted, and you can't talk about land without talking about transportation. But I think the direction that Director Needham has suggested captures that. So I'm happy if this moves forward.
So you'll move this?
Yeah, unless others have comments, but.
Any other comments or questions? I see hands flapping. Okay, go ahead. Director Race.
Second.
Sorry, my hand's been going up and down. But I thought, to answer your question, I thought the wording that Director Needham had read out to us was sort of in addition to what we see in our agenda. But I'm happy to have it separately put into a letter and just move the motion that's 11.3 that's in the agenda. And the letter would be the qualifying factor to it. So
okay.
Somebody else has already moved that, and I'll second it. 11.3.
Yeah, I think Director Elliott moved it, and seconded by Director Ray. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Good. Thank you. Thank you, Kim. Building 11.4, request for decision, SLRD building bylaw. Into that. Has that moved? By Director Demare, seconded by Director Mack. I'll call the question. All in favour? Opposed? Is that bylaw enforcement report? Any questions or comments on that? I think it's probably me that asked for that at some point. I something about what our bylaw officer is doing, and the difficulties we might or she might encounter. And I see there are fines that are unpaid. I'd like to see some recommendations from staff, if needed, if they haven't got the tools already, to come back to us and get some support in that. There's not much point in writing tickets if people just continually don't pay in rural areas, for sure. With people just openly saying, I don't care what the SRLD says because there's nothing they can do. You know, we are pursuing them. Director Elliott.
So there's a line in this report that says the regional district has not been given the authority to add amounts owing to property taxes. Can we get that permission from someone? Or is that not allowed under like the act?
I would have to refer to our regional connection at the province and find out more about that.
And also, I think if we're going to take this seriously, then we have to take someone to court. So that is the direction other municipalities have taken with their short-term rental regulations, is that you put money aside and you make an example of a few folks. If you're serious about regulating it, then I think you have to be willing to do that. Or else what you just said is true, Chair Rainbow. There's nothing we can do. So I unless there's other options to secure those payments, then or see the operation cease, then I think that is a path that's available to us.
Okay, Kim, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I will say though, without getting too much into our bylaw enforcement processes, we do have our lawyers send letters to some of the more flagrant violators. And generally speaking, that has a very positive effect. And so we utilize that prior to going to seek a court injunction or anything like that. Typically, where this would go is that these tickets and notices would be sent to collections. And that is, we forward these to our finance department, and it's really finance that needs to follow up in terms of collections. And I think maybe once there's additional staff in the finance department, that'll be something that might be easier for them to take on.
Okay, Director Demand.
Yeah, I see the line item down lower, and where the cost of enforcement are just over $2,200, and what we've received back is $1,500 so far. So it's yeah, and this was I don't know what the timeline is. It looks like for 2019. So we're losing money on top of it. Just a comment.
Short-term rentals either. We've got a wild safe coordinator this summer, and he's encountered residents who put their curbside bins out the night before collection, and they've received notices from the I know of, who is just telling his neighbors, I don't care. What are they going to do? I think what we should be doing is finding that person every week that his bin is out the night before. $500 a pop or something. Maybe you don't get it in municipalities, but it's certainly in the rural areas. There's that attitude that, hey, what are they going to do about it? There's nothing they can do. And that's what we have to work with and change. do with this particular item. So could I have a motion to receive it, please? Moved by Director Demare, seconded by Director Birch-Jones. Or call a question, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. We'll move on to
Chair. Tony.
Director Richmond.
I would like to follow up on the question somebody asked about why we can't apply it to property taxes within the regional district, because that is an easier tool for the type of violation you're talking about, for bare bin or garbage bins, that sort of thing. So I would like a follow up from staff to understand if and how we can apply these fines to people's property taxes.
Yeah,
I'll make that motion.
Can you do that in municipalities? Can you apply?
What was that?
Can you use that in a municipality? Can you?
Yes.
And there's a staff investigate that for the SLRD. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Seconded by Director Weeb. Call the question on that. All in favor? Opposed? Useful. Okay. Riverside Wetlands. Community Park update. Okay. Do you have any questions of Angela on this? Not a motion to receive this, please.
I'll move that.
Seconded by Director Demare. For the question, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carries, which brings us down now to level 7, request for decision, tenure for Britannia Creek. I'm wondering if we should take a break at this point and come back at, we have a delegation at 1 o'clock, so we should take our break now and come back to point 7. Any objections? If there are, they're overruled. A lunch break, and we'll see you at 1 o'clock. Thank you. Hey, Bob, can you hear me?
Yes, I
there's
can
something
hear you. Sorry.
Great, no, fine. There's something oh, Kristen said. Kristen, are we still live streaming right now? We are. So, Bob, I want to call you then after the meeting. I've got
good.
a couple of questions about Lillooet that I want to ask you.
Sounds good.
Okay. Getting my hair done tomorrow.
I got mine done last Thursday.
Come up here, I'll cut it for you, Tony.
Yeah, thank you.
I cut Debbie's hair twice, and our last trip down to Vancouver, she finally got a proper haircut. I did a pretty good job.
No.
New career coming.
Sal the barber has a certain ring to it. Oh. What have I got?
I am just getting myself organized to share my screen for the presentation.
Okay, sounds good.
How's that look, everybody?
I can see it. I'm just trying to figure out where it is.
Yeah, it looks good.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Kristen is Don with us.
He's in the waiting room.
Okay, very good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, 8. Hey, Russell.
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, can you see the screens? Do you have any video?
No,
Ah, okay.
that's why I'm phoning in right at the moment. So,
I'm phoning in, but I've got my
well, what I've got on my screen is I've got the agenda, right?
Ah, okay.
Yeah, and then hopefully Paul gets my other laptop cleared out, and then I should be in business here.
Good. I'm waiting for Director Elliott, Director Crompton, and Director Richmond. Oh, Richmond's there. Let me wait. Oh, just those two. We'll give them one more minute. It's just stuck. I'm going to call this meeting back to order. We are back to item 6, which is a citation. Now, Kristen, do I need to resolve that first part, don't I? Melanie, the notwithstanding?
Yes.
I need a resolution. The situation is that Donald is basically an employee or working with the BODC, and it contravenes our policy. So we need to, in order to be able to hear him, we need to pass that resolution, please. So could I have someone moved by Director Weave, seconded by Director Demir? Call the question. All in favour? Opposed? Motion carries.
Sorry, Chair, can I just get a roll call? I'm not sure if Director Birch-Jones is back and Director Ford.
Yes. Yes.
I'm just back this minute.
Thank you. Director, okay.
Yeah, we've got 8. We're waiting for Director, well, we're not waiting for Director Elliott. We're going to go ahead. And I'd like to introduce Donald Lassen. Donald, my name's Tony Rainbow. I don't think we've actually met. So welcome to our meeting, and I'll turn the floor over to you.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to be here, and thank you for agreeing to do a short presentation on heritage management issues as they might relate to the clients on this project for quite a while. To ensure that there is a high level of heritage authenticity and proper conservation procedures being undertaken on the site. It's been my pleasure to be involved in this extremely unique site. So today is just a brief overview of a couple of issues that we wanted to raise in terms of the legal protection and potential incentives for the site. And if I could, Kristen, if I could move to the next slide, please. Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I've been working in heritage throughout Western Canada Heritage Conservation Project for many years. And one of the things that is really unique about this project is that it represents an opportunity to save a very significant industrial site.
Is anyone else having trouble with the audio?
Yeah, I am. Donald, we're having trouble hearing you.
I've got it turned up now. Is that better?
I can hear you now.
Okay, I will try and speak loudly if that helps. Is this okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Moving forward, thank you. So this site is actually quite unique. We've worked on many industrial sites in British Columbia, but this one is really important. It links to a National Historic Site, the Britannia Mining Museum, which is one of our premier examples of an industrial heritage site in British Columbia. And retaining the town site in the way that it's been presented represents a really significant opportunity that we think will bring synergy to both the Mining Museum and to the Britannia Beach town site. Next slide, please. We're a little bit, the process is unfolded in a very unusual manner on this.
Excuse me. Hi, excuse me. Chair Rainbow, do you mind, could we try if we have the participants muting their mics? I wonder if the sound might be better. And I'm only interrupting because I'm really not hearing. I'm very interested. Sorry, Donald.
Quite okay. Let's take a second to ensure we have the best possible sound here. Is that a little bit better? Is that sound any better? Are we agreeing the sound is better? Should I continue?
I think it's better. Thank you.
Okay, let's keep going. I appreciate your time is limited. So in discussing this very unique site and how to maintain its character, the development client is very interested in doing this all to very high standard of heritage conservation, as you know from the plans, but it is proceeded first with a rezoning, and we've been kind of catching up on some of the heritage management issues as we go. Heritage management of a site like this is really a balance of regulations and incentives, what we call the carrots and sticks. The sticks, the regulations, are the planning tools like the rezoning process, assessment tools, legal protection tools, which is going to be achieved through a heritage revitalization agreement, and other heritage management tools enabled in provincial legislation. Next slide, please. The incentives in this case are very challenging. It's a very difficult process to undertake a heritage project to the level of authenticity that we would like to see. And it is more expensive than regular construction. You have to be much more careful in terms of retaining materials, undertaking the work to a high degree of customization. So often a successful heritage project really does need some assistance or partnership. And local government can provide this in a few ways, either directly financially or through non-financial incentives. Obviously, the financial incentives would include grants, permissive tax incentives, or reducing permit fees. Other means of achieving incentives are the Heritage Revitalization Agreement, which often will provide more density. In this case, it really can't. We're not even up to permitted density. Really, only so much that can be done to help the project financially. Next slide, please. So the reason this is important is, again, that we have a situation where it's not only going to cost more to do this work properly, but it is also going to take a while for the project to, in essence, catch up to the market and begin to start to pay back on its investment. So this is a very considered a very delicate time during the redevelopment process. When you first complete a project, you get hit all of a sudden with full taxation. It can really penalize you for the work you've done. So one of the things that we have seen other municipalities use quite effectively is to use the enabling legislation to provide some incentives to heritage projects. Next slide, please. So there's two key pieces of legislation that would apply in this case. One is the Local Government Act that provides for the negotiation of heritage revitalization agreements, and the other is the Community Charter that enables permissive tax exemptions. Next slide, please. I won't go into detail, but we'll be happy to answer any questions. But heritage revitalization agreements are commonly used throughout the province since 1994 to provide legal protection, but also provide incentives for heritage projects. And if we can move to the next slide, please. One of the key ways to do that is to allow permissive tax exemptions that are enabled through the negotiation of that HRA. Next slide, please. So in conclusion, one of the ways that this project can be made successful is to consider community charter tax exemption, which has been previously discussed for this project, but it is one of the ways to acknowledge the premium costs of the heritage conservation that is occurring on the site, and also to not penalize it at its inception, so that there is, as it were, a cooling off period until the financial viability of the site is established once the redevelopment is complete. I'll stop there. Thank you very much. Last slide. And I'd be happy to answer any questions about this process or the project. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Donald. Directors, do we have any questions for Donald? Director Crompton.
So I understood as part of the rezoning, there was a commitment to keep these buildings in place and rehabilitate them and use them as part of the development.
Yes.
So that was I guess a get for the people of the region.
Yes.
Are you asking for now an additional funding stream, grants, these carrots that you talk about, that would be provided, and you would expand the kind of heritage work that has already been agreed to? Or is this asking for support to do the work that's already being committed to by the proponents?
Excellent question. Thank you. First of all, to clarify, I'm not asking for anything today. This is just providing information for further negotiation of the potential for these incentives. One of the things that is unusual about this project is usually all of the negotiation for protection and conservation happens at the time of rezoning. That didn't quite occur, as I understand it, and the HRA and the legal protection are yet to move forward. And that is the opportunity, that would be the time to help the project through providing incentives. The client has been very committed to protecting this. As a matter of fact, the rezoning did not ask for even the full potential of redevelopment of the site. So I think clearly the commitment to doing this properly, it is there and has been there since the inception. And I think one can only applaud when this happens, because it is a very rare situation where someone does not ask for a full development potential under a rezoning. And there's many reasons why. It's an unusual, unique site that's required an enormous amount of site preparation, mitigation, just even setting the stage for this conservation to occur. So the answer is there was no compensation or incentives built into the rezoning. So as the legal protection moves forward, clearly the owner has already agreed to allow the buildings to be listed on the Heritage Register to move this forward. And the intention is that a permissive tax exemption, which would be enabled through the HRA and therefore the community charter, would be the that would be the only assistance that is being provided towards conservation.
And why not make that request at rezoning? Why wait until now to make that request?
I cannot speak to why that did not happen, but I know we discussed it and that it was in a draft of the HRA, and that the process should have included that at the time. And I cannot speak to the process and would have to defer to staff and the client to explain that. But that's my understanding.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Any other, Director Race?
Thank you. So, Mr. Luxton, the portion of this development that might be considered heritage, I take it, is confined to the commercial area that's closest to the highway, the old buildings that are being shuffled around and put on foundations and so forth. Am I correct in that? That's the area?
That's my understanding, yes.
And is there some kind of standard for these tax exemptions? I mean, it wouldn't necessarily have to be 100%. I think the legislation allows partial exemptions. And I know there's maximum time limits, but it's a 1, 2, 3 years. Or is there any kind of norm for these?
There's many different situations in which these are allowed, and it depends on the situation. Certain municipalities allow 100% for 10 years. Some negotiate a lower number. And again, I'm not asking for anything today, but because this is a negotiation that needs to occur to set that number, that makes sense. But I will say that the standard is 10 years, and it can be full or partial. It's a fairly common action by municipalities to provide those financial incentives. And the reason for that and why they are popular, especially City of Victoria uses them quite often, because they know that as you go through the rehabilitation process, you're carrying a lot of debt to do that rehabilitation. So the City of Victoria has tied their tax exemptions to seismic rehabilitation costs as a ballpark. But they know that as the building is rehabilitated, the developer can carry debt for quite a while, and it may take a while to rent and start to achieve full occupancy. So it's a very delicate period of establishing success, and therefore that 10-year window, by pulling back from full taxation, you help ensure the success of the project. So again, the amount needs to be negotiated, but it is fairly standard practice to say 10 years.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any other questions? Donald, I'd like to thank you very much for being with us this afternoon and providing that information. And no doubt we'll be talking to you again at some point.
I really appreciate the opportunity. Thank you so much for your attention today. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thanks, Jonathan.
Thank you.
Go back. We'll pick up where we left off before lunch, which was at 11.7, which is request for decision, tenure for Britannia Creek debris flood infrastructure and associated conveyance agreement. There's a hole on my screen. There she is, Melanie.
Thank you, Chair. Our corporate officer had something.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Kim, Kristen?
Thank you. Director Mack, can you unmute yourself and speak to us? Well, I don't know what's going on there. So perhaps I can just try and reach him. I'm not sure what's going on. Is that okay if I just have a moment to reach out to Director Mack?
Sure.
So he's dropped off now. So we'll see. I guess we can keep going and he should be calling back in.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
So who is doing this?
Graham's just joining us.
Friends. Okay. Graham, are you going to speak to us on this?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I can speak to this. So this item was included on the meeting's agenda as the board deferred it by 1 month from the September 16th board meeting, based on a recommendation by staff at that time. However, we remain involved in ongoing discussions with the developer respecting the conveyance agreement and several issues related to the agreement. So
Chair Rainbow, can you hear me?
Yes, we can now. Thank you.
Okay, Kirsten was just trying to call me, so obviously it doesn't need to at the moment. I reconnected, rephoned in.
No, continue, please.
Sure. So my recommendation is now for a motion to defer this item to a future meeting to provide staff an opportunity to further resolve the ongoing discussions and issues related to the agreement. Thanks, Chair. That's my report.
Thank you very much. So we want a motion to defer this to a future meeting to allow staff to work on it some more. Moved by Director the Mayor, seconded by Director. Opposed, motion carries. Graham, thanks very much. And we'll, 7, which brings us to 12, Chair's verbal report. Okay. And then I've been discussing with Melanie where we stand at the moment in terms of the work that has been done in the last few months, the work that wasn't done. And we all know that back in February, when our previous election was happening, we agreed that some things that we had planned maybe wouldn't be done at the time that we'd expected. We wouldn't meet some deadlines, so we would have to reshuffle. And that obviously became sort of more serious, if you like, with all the COVID restrictions. Delayed, and the net result now is that with Melanie moving in, she has to assess what our priorities are right now, what absolutely has to be done in terms of catch up, what can still be deferred a little bit longer, what we thought would be a reasonable plan moving forward is that we will give her a few more months to just the time we get to the cow in January, what we'd like to do is spend the whole of it on a review of our strategic plan that we made 2 years ago, that we what things we had as priorities, whether they still are, whether there are new things to be added in there, and that we come up with a plan for the remaining 2 years of this term. So that any comments I'd like to make on that, or any questions, we could entertain those now. No, we okay? Director Ford.
I'm sorry, Chair Rainbow. There was so much stuttering through that. What I just want for clarity, that you're suggesting that the Committee of the Whole in January, we revise our strategic plan? Is that, my question is, if that's what you're suggesting, are we going to be constrained to approve budgets within the, because we'll start our budget process in November, but if we make a significant revision in January, that will challenge finance staff to adequately resource us? Or am I missing, I'm missing so much of what you just said. So if you could repeat it.
Yeah, this is very frustrating because I can hear you. The intent is to take to pause. Let us know what her assessment of the situation is. What we deferred, whether that should then be reactivated. What we just cancelled, whether we should review that. Are there some new initiatives? But rather than just sort of go along from month to month to month, we thought it would be worthwhile to take a step back, sit down and just reflect on what we've done and what we need to do. Obviously, anything we do has a budget implication, and we have to build that into our decision. Director Elliott, I saw your hand, and then Director DeMere.
I know this is the chair's report, but your sound is cutting out quite a bit, and I wonder if Melanie could just answer Director Ford's question about the budget piece so that we understand how this would all fit together. I'm supportive of the direction. I just want to understand how all these puzzle pieces will fit.
Melanie, can you help me out there?
Yes, I will attempt to do my best. So the strategic plan and the budget process are obviously interlinked, and all of them are simply a snapshot in time, and they're an iterative process. So the intent would be that as we go through the budget process, we're going to be discussing the financial numbers based on the strategic plan that's in place, that in January we would be revisiting the strategic plan that is in place, tweaking it if needed, and prioritizing the various projects, many of which had to be put on a back shelf with the staff vacancies and the COVID impacts, so that then we would be saying, let's do these ones first, these ones will be next, these ones may be more advocacy or pushed off. So just to sort of have a collaborative process for yourselves in setting that oversight so that we have some direction on how to move those projects forward and which ones to work on first.
Thank you very much.
Director DeMere.
Thank you. Yeah, the one piece that's missing for me is the work plan. And I think, like, I haven't been part of the strategic plan yet, so I don't know what it looks like. But for me as a new director, the work plan, it was good to see, because then we could see what's been deferred and what the staff is actually working on. And there's lots of items for our area that had been deferred. And so I'd like that to be part of that January meeting also.
Okay, thank you. I've got a suggestion here. I turn off my video. Okay, what I'm going to do is move to another part of my house and see whether that makes a difference. But before I do that, I'll just start on. I think we've had enough. We know what we're moving for, what we're planning to do. So let's get into a roundtable now, and we'll start in the north this time. So let's start up with Vivian and me.
I think you. Chair Rainbow, did you just invite me to speak?
Yes, please. Just area B, okay. And then we'll move from there. We got area B. Go ahead.
The technical difficulties that we're having are so grim. I'm wondering, at what point does this not constitute a meeting, Really need to fix this. I won't make technical suggestions, but I don't get headaches very often. I also really appreciate having had to chair the last EAD. It's extremely difficult to watch the screen and see hands going up. And I wonder if we could arrange for staff to help in the chairing, help in the technical process, maybe manage the mute buttons. I sure think we have to do a lot better. I think I'll just stop right there for today. Thank you.
Okay, Director DeMayor.
Thank you. Yeah, I've got a few items I'd like to just talk about. We had a couple of successes at the UBCM meetings with the ministers and so on and so forth. So there was a commitment for the recapping of the gravel sections on Road 40, and it was $400,000 project, and they were supposed to start shortly after that the UBCM meetings. Unfortunately, we had a major rain event, and we had debris flows throughout, especially along Carpenter Lake, and which delayed the recapping. I finally got to talk to the Mohawk regional manager, and they're supposed to start again this week and do as much as they can until the weather says to stop. So that's one positive. But unfortunately, due to some of these rain events, that gravel sections, they got pounded out with the industrial traffic on it. And I've had a number of complaints, and hopefully right now they've got graders back on that road. So that was one positive. On top of it, I've reached out to our MLA. Hopefully Jackie Tucker gets acclaimed through the process. But previously there used to be a MLA, Maudie, and Area A, Area B, and Lillooet mayor on a call and review any issues related to the Maudie roads in the area. So I reached out, and Jackie Tackert's office has returned a call, and if she gets a claim, we're going back to those. So that's another positive thing. With the Hurley early FSR, there was commitment for them to look at extra funding for road material. And they did manage to find it again from the same program that the brushing and ditching was done. And that's through the Forest Employment Program for another $100,000. And as we speak, we've got 2 contractors, one from the Pemberton side and one from the Goldbridge side, working towards the middle to find material on the side of the road and old pits that they had, and put down material and grade it. So that's also very, very positive. It's not the final solution because it really needs good crushed material to be put on top, and I'll keep on pursuing that. The other positive thing is the community support program that we started in April, where the Lillooet Friendship Center helped us with a food bank process that we have out here. We're over 6 months now and it's still moving forward, and at the last EAD, it was approved for another $2,500 from Area Select Funds. And I've gone out in my monthly newsletter that goes out here, Mountain Telegraph, to ask for more donations from our community. I'd really like to see it move forward through the holiday season and beyond that. There is a need in our community. And that's all I have for today. Thank you.
Can you hear me? Okay, I've moved to another part of my house. I've got my phone hooked up. So I hope it'll be better. Okay, so Director Weave, Lillooet.
Well, all these trials and tribulations with these Zoom meetings. I think they carry on everywhere. We are still moving forward with having our open council meetings at the rec center, and we have upgraded to microphones for the mayor and each councillor and staff so that we can be better heard. But last council meeting, then we forgot to video it. So I think it's just trial and error with a lot of things, and we just have to smile and do the best that we can. As far as what's going on here, we've received a grant to expand our refueling station up at the airport, which is good news for us. Our new vac truck has basically paid for itself in a couple of months by not having to have people come in from Kamloops to do our pipes and every other little thing that we usually have to contract out. I think the elections went well with the protocol that we had set out at the rec center. I'd like to give a shout out to Director Crompton. Thank you very much for including Lillooet in your rural, more reasonable housing. We'll see where that goes, hopefully. And I really wanted to thank Director Ford for what she's done with the rent bank. And I really look forward to that video conference meeting on Monday, and hopefully everyone that I reached out for is going to tune in. And that's, other than applying for zillions of grants to see where we can go, that's where we sit at the moment.
Thank you. Let's come down to Pemberton.
I've just spontaneously dropped off and had to reconnect about 10, 12 times this meeting. So if I go away, that's where I've gone. there's been quite a bit of things going on here. Everything's kind of been overshadowed by a couple missing community members that went missing about 6-7 days ago now. And that's sort of been the single focus in our community. Search and rescue, RCMP volunteers have been out for the whole week. And there's a base camp set up and businesses are providing food and all that sort of thing. There's a lot of community support, but it's been a really tough time. It's 2 Lillooet community members. This is really rocking their community right now. So that's sort of the big focal point for me and all of us here in Pemberton right now.
Thank you. Russell, Dr. Mack.
Yes, and same thoughts as Mike on those 2 folks that are missing, but on a better note, we finally are getting some action on the Highline Road. Started 8 or 10 days ago now. They came up with enough money to provide material to, put a cap on it right from Darcy to Seaton. The Telford Bridge area was all finished, so that's all open again. And what they're doing, they're pounding out all the big rocks that were protruding, more so at this end in the Darcy area, but they're going to go all the way, so there's no big rocks in the way, and they're putting a lift of gravel on it. So that's really exciting. Then they just have to maintain it. That'll be the thing. But anyways, I really want to thank our previous, or maybe our MLA, hopefully Jordan Sturdy. He worked really hard on this, as did Claire Trevina, who I'm sad didn't run again, because you finally get to know somebody and then they're gone. But anyway, she did a lot of work on that, so that's very appreciated. The rest of the roads were still challenged with that, but we'll keep working at it. So we'll leave it at that. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Down to Whistler. Who would like to speak for Whistler?
Director Ford. No. Oh, okay. So we are making snow. Not we, but Whistler Blackcomb is making snow, which is pretty exciting. Got lots of snow made, which didn't happen last year. And I think a lot of us are excited to be able to ski at some point soon. Our big Czechmas housing, the Czechmas Crossing housing project is moving through process, and we'll see it back in front of council shortly, which is exciting. As I've said before, that brings a significant amount of housing to our community, which is exciting. We, as I have mentioned before, our Whistler Recovery Working Group, and we have smaller task forces that are doing work and feeding back a lot of guidance to our organization, which is really interesting and useful, I think. And that will be returning to council shortly. I wanted to just mention that it was nice to, we're seeing really busy weekends with slower midweek. And we expect that to be further accentuated in the winter, where we'll see very busy weekends and not much visitation midweek, which is an interesting challenge. It's been the case in the past, but certainly not to the level that we're seeing right now. And that's all I have to add today. Thank you.
Director Ford, has Director Crompton said enough about Whistler, or do you have something as well?
Yeah, I like to share where we have made progress in sort of this pandemic time. So our rec center reopened, which means that people can book a time to go into the fitness facility. There is hockey resuming, so families can drop their kids off to play hockey in leagues, and there's figure skating. The lap pool has reopened. You have to book a time, you have to book a lap lane, but so absolutely beyond capacity. Everybody wants to get into the pool because everyone's desperate to swim. And the library has been offering kind of a curbside pickup and a reserve your books and go and pick them up for quite a while. But I've heard that there is a soft opening allowing people to go in and browse. They've stacked all the furniture, so you can't go in and sit down, but at least people can get to the library, which I've been a staunch defender of for many years, that it is the place that people who are overcrowded in their rental home and don't have privacy can go. And for people who are living alone can go and just sit next to another heartbeat. So I am looking forward to further opening of the library as we go. And we've recently made a difficult decision to enforce a policy within municipal facilities, mandatory masks within any facilities, with a list of exceptions for people who cannot wear a mask for medical reasons. And there's a decent list that's in line with Dr. Bonnie Henry's guidelines. So we are, we're aligning ourselves as a resort so that it's not confusing to move from one part of the resort to another. And here's hoping we have a great season ahead. One last thing is Halloween this weekend is going to look very different. For the first time ever, homeowners will be handing out candy in most neighborhoods. Traditionally, for the last far too long, 45 years or so, every kid in Whistler would go to one neighborhood and trick or treat in one neighborhood. So those houses have all the Halloween decorations and have closed the road and allowed the kids to trick or treat in that one neighborhood. And so for this year, we are asking everyone to just trick or treat in their own neighborhood, which is kind of neat. It's different. It's somewhat exciting, but also it's a departure from how we've always done Halloween. So I wish everyone a very happy Halloween.
Thank you. And moving right along there, let's come down to Squamish.
Okay, I'm anticipating that I still get my regional moment tomorrow. So
Well, please don't repeat yourself. Save that
I am
for tomorrow.
saving some things for tomorrow. But in the spirit of collaboration and information sharing, I did want to talk about a few things that we're doing on the policy side of things. So later this month, later in November, we're bringing forward a new procurement policy that will include social and climate goals. And so in my mind, it would be great if we started working as a region around the same goals around social and climate related procurement so that people couldn't municipality hop. And so I look forward to that being shared by our staff once it's out in the public realm. We are looking at 2 density bonus schemes for our community. The first one I think will proceed quite quickly, and that is a low carbon density bonus scheme. So what it will do is reduce the size of single family duplex and multifamily homes by 1/3. And if you commit to not putting in fossil fuel infrastructure, you get that 1/3 back. So we are actually still allowing, we're not going above the density currently allowed, but we're going to pull it back. And if you reduce the GHG intensity of your home, then you get the full density back. So that is out for consultation right now in the community. The second one is about encouraging smart growth neighborhoods and adding gentle density to our single family home neighborhoods. And that one's going to take a little while longer. So right now our staff are working with a landscape architect and an architect to start creating visuals of what gentle density looks like around neighborhood hubs, or how we might densify around our core transit network, so that we can make active transportation and walkable neighborhoods and a robust transit system part of our future. But, you know, I think our council feels that density can sometimes be a scary or a bad word for people. And so we want people to be able to visualize and see what we're trying to achieve here, because the benefits, you know, around a healthier lifestyle, around more neighborhood connectivity, all those things often don't get conveyed when someone's trying to put a high density project into what is maybe a more traditional single family neighborhood. So both of those things are related to our climate action plan and are important, but they're on two slightly different time zone. And lastly, on the policy front, we've started a discussion on marine zoning. So this is the first time we'll zone water lots around our shore. And that's really looking to protect the really environmentally sensitive areas, but also make sure that there's clear delineation between recreational use, how we might envision float homes or housing down there, industrial users, commercial users, and then public access to the water, which we've never really had. We've had a very industrial waterfront. And so it's really interesting to start to take a look at how we would apply zoning from the marine perspective. And then I have some other things for tomorrow.
You do? I thought you exhausted everything.
No, there's so much going on. It's such an interesting place to live.
So I've heard. Yeah.
It's maybe superior to some other places.
I was going to ask if it's superior to Lillooet.
Maybe not to Lillooet.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, well, Doug, on the condition that you don't tread on Karen's toes with regard to what she's going to say tomorrow, do you have anything to say?
No, I wasn't, just because of that, except to say that I'm still getting over the shock of the election, but I guess we'll have to wait and see what the mail-in ballots do. But thank you.
Thank you. That leaves Area D. So just a couple of things. You heard me complain throughout the summer, throughout the pandemic, about what's happening in the Upper Squamish Valley. And I think I probably already told you that we're going to have a meeting of a whole group of people, including districts of Squamish, the nation, and so on. We were going to do that in October, but it's on. Once they called the election, we put it on hold. We're waiting to find out who our MLA is, because we definitely want the MLA involved in it. So that will be happening, I hope, in November. Good and bad news with regard to the valley. I've had some complaints about people abusing agricultural land. We've got somebody up there right now who purportedly is cutting down trees, putting roads in, building pads for tiny homes, and actively advertising in the valley for people to rent space from him. And this is all on ALR land. Staff are aware of it and they're working at it. But that's a growing problem in that valley with people doing things on agricultural land that they shouldn't be doing. And it's going to take quite an effort from us in terms of staff time and sort of the will to push forward with some of these issues. And I just sort of raise that as a red flag right now. And then the good news about the valley there is that community has grown so much in terms of being a community. 6 years ago, it was difficult to get a meeting of people together, and there was one woman that really drove the development of a community association. And I was up there on Saturday to look at their fire smarting activity they had going on some land that they own. and the turnout was fantastic, and the whole feel of the place, it was just wonderful what they were doing. You know, they built a great playground. They got a trail through the woods to get from A to B without going along the roads, without driving. It really is a thriving community now, and they're people that are playing by the rules, and we're going to need to support them in terms of the people that aren't playing by the rules. And the other thing about Area D, you probably, well, most of you got a notice that the, or what's it called? But Whistler Olympic Park anyway, it was awarded the 2023 FIS Junior Nordic Championships. I think you knew that. They applied to us a few months ago for some money to support the purchase of snowblowing equipment, and that our contribution was blocked by UBCM because they thought it didn't fit the criteria. But they've now decided that it does. So I've been able to tell Roger Sohn that that money is now available to him, which is about 30% of what they need. So it's a significant amount. And hopefully that will help them get the rest of the money and get that snowblowing equipment up and running not by this winter, but by the winter of 2021. And that helps them in terms of the international event. But the main thing is they'll now be able to open that facility reliably in the beginning of November and chop up the snow during the season, maybe add to the end of the season. So it gives them a longer cross-country ski season, which has a positive impact for local people that want to go and ski, and also for their financial situation. So that's it for me for Area D. The first time I've ever gone through my Area D report without mentioning the place in which I live. And I'll leave it that way, keep it that way. So let's move on. We're into correspondence for action. By the way, I've moved to another place in my house. Is this better?
Much.
Much better?
Much better.
Then I'll set up this way. Obviously, it's to do with my Wi-Fi connection. So, but the problem is I don't have my other screen now. So, Melanie, I might need to get some help from you with regard to the agenda. But I've got a printed version. So, 13.1. Invitation for nominations, Patrick Weiler, Unsung Champions. Any comments? If not, I'd like the motion to receive.
I'll move that.
Moved, Director Mack, second Director Race. Call the question, all in favour. Opposed, motion carries. 13.2, a request for a letter of support, the Corporation of the City of New Westminster. This thing regarding contraception. Any comments? Director Elliott.
I'd like to move that we send a letter of support. This was part of the NDP platform, and I want to make sure they follow through on that, and I think adding our voice to this would be important.
Do I have a seconder for that? Seconded by Director Ford. Any questions or comments? Okay, I call the question. All in favour? Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. 13.3, invitation by Patrick Weiler, a meeting for increased connectivity to rural and remote communities. I've already told him I'm interested in meeting with him.
I will definitely move this.
Okay, moved Director Mack, second by Director Elliott. Call the question, all in favour? Opposed? Motion carries. Letter of support, Britannia Mine Museum, for this infrastructure program. We're up a really tight deadline here. The letter is actually written and awaiting my signature. So I'd like a motion to approve that letter of support. Moved by Director Demare, seconded by Director Ford. Call the question, all in favour? Opposed? Motion carries. Request for support, Bridge River Valley Heritage Committee, SRD Register, Director Demare, you need to leave us?
Yes, I need to declare a conflict of interest for 13.5 and 13.6. As my daughter works for the BRVCA and my wife is a director.
Okay, thank you. So put you in the waiting room for those two items, and we'll just wait until you've gone. Okay, so 13.5.
Yeah, I'll move that.
Moved by Director Mack, seconded by Director Birch-Jones. I call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. And then the second one is the Bridge River Valley application to Community Economic Recovery Infrastructure Program.
And I'll move that.
No, you won't. You'll second that because Director Birch-Jones.
Okay.
Okay. Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. So we'll just wait until Kristen invites Director DeMayer to join us again. Great, thank you. 13.7, I've got a blurred thing here. Cedar Sky EV expansion project. So the RMOW is requesting support in the form of a letter.
I'll move that.
Seconded by Director Elliott. Question by Director Elliott.
The question is to get a letter of support or become a partner. And I'm interested to know whether staff thinks that becoming a partner in this, because it's Squamish, Whistler, Pemberton, Lillooet, whether we would want to have some say in where we position these chargers.
Okay, I've got some other people with hands up. Director Birch-Jones, then Director Ford.
Support this, support the motion, support becoming a partner. I'm wondering if it can be expanded all the way up to A, B, and Lillooet.
Okay, Director Ford.
So I know that there's a motion on the floor to write the letter. I guess we could write the letter and then a subsequent motion to become a partner, or friendly amendment, we could become a member of the application, which then satisfies both. So I leave that with the chair.
Okay, Melanie, do you have a comment? Melanie,
thank you, Chair. Yes, I just wanted to say that at this point, we don't have a funding mechanism for being a financial contributing partner in the project, but we could certainly provide a letter of support, and we could certainly explore and have dialogue with the members, the partners that are in that electric charging initiative currently, as to what kind of role and what locations could be looked at, and bring this forward again to the budget deliberations for how we could look at funding or being involved in that level, if that's the board's wish.
Yeah, I sort of rushed into that a little bit, but I did discuss this, and we talked about the question of funding and the question of location. If we as a regional district are going to be involved as a partner in this, then we maybe shouldn't just look at the municipalities in the Cedar Sky. We should be looking at all of the whole region, including Britannia and Furry Creek, and we also should go north to Lillooet as well. So there's sort of a being a partner. Is that just for something that is for part of the regional district? And if it is, it's maybe not appropriate. But if it's going to expand to include the whole of the regional district, then it would make sense. But there are financial, as Melanie has said, there are financial considerations there. So we thought that, I thought that at this point, a letter of support is the most appropriate, and then we pursue the issue of partnership later. Director Elliott.
So can I suggest that the motion is that SLRD provide a letter of support for the Sea to Sky EV expansion project, and that staff explore with the project leaders how we might get involved as a partner going forward.
And could I have a seconder for that?
I'll second that.
But there's a whole raft of seconds for that. And heard Director Mack first, so okay. In that case, I'll call a question on that. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Great, thank you very much. Lower Mainland Local Government Association Civics registration. Now, I noticed the registration is free this year because it's an online event. I'd like to express my support of this this initiative. It's too bad that it has to be online, but better that than nothing. But the only glitch there is that the first day is the day of our board meeting. So if presumably we could attend just for 2 days if we wanted to, or the 25th is our board meeting. Maybe we could have a, there's no financial implications to this at all. So I think a motion to receive would be adequate. Unless somebody else has something they wish to do. Motion to receive the vote by Director Race, seconded by Director Weeb. Just a question to Director Crompton. No problem with people just sort of dropping in when they're able to?
I don't think so. I am. They've asked me to no longer participate in the organizing committee. So.
Oh, really? I beg your pardon. I thought.
I think I just did too good a job previously.
I didn't realize you'd been fired. So I shouldn't shout at you then for putting it on our board meeting day. Okay.
Did they say it was about them and not you?
They did. That's exactly the phrase they used.
That's not the phrase we used.
I've never heard that phrase before either.
Okay.
As the SLRD representative, it is no problem to just attend the sessions you can attend.
Right. Okay. We've got to vote on that. Call the question on that motion. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Good. Any additional late business, Melanie? Or have we got it all listed here?
Only what's on the agenda. Thank you, Chair.
That's what's on the agenda. Okay. So 15.1, request for decision, evacuation route planning funding opportunity. First chance I've had to look at this. Who? There she is. We got it all listed. Sarah, are you with us?
I was.
Oh, you are again. I can't see you, but I can hear you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
One moment.
Oh, she's gone.
I think we do need Sarah to tell us something about this.
I'm sure she'll be back.
We did have a report on this already.
Yeah, but I thought Steph had something to add to, tell us that we didn't know. Any contact there at all, Chris?
Not yet.
Okay. Let's do 15.2. Directional request, 2020 MITEX expression of interest. Could I have a motion for that, please? By Director Ford, seconded by Director Richmond. What have I missed here? Philippa, were you going to speak to us about 15.2, about that directional request? Okay, just go ahead then. I'm sorry, I didn't realize you were going to join us.
Not a problem at all. I can speak briefly to this if that's your preference.
Yeah, just fill us in a little as it's a late item.
Not a problem. So we've just recently become aware of a request for expressions of interest through a program called MyTax, organization called MyTax. They're a not-for-profit organization that fosters growth and innovation in Canada. They're funded by the Government of Canada and all of the provinces, post-secondary partners, industry and not-for-profit partners, and international partners. And the report refers to the expression of interest, which is calling to link local governments with researchers to address a specific challenge that they're having. So the brief benefits of the program are listed as the ability to collaborate with experts and access external research, access to some large and real data sets. There is a funding opportunity here as part of the program, up to 55% of the project's cost, and the range of funding is from sort of the thousands up to the millions, apparently. And there's the opportunity to look at partnerships with the federal and provincial government on projects, as well as post-secondary institutions, companies, and so on. So it's for projects that are research ready, I believe, rather than shovel ready. We haven't had a ton of time to look into this, so the request here is some time to take a closer look at the expression of interest and the requirements there, the program requirements against our current projects, to determine if there's something that's appropriate to submit.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, I asked for a motion, and it was moved and seconded that we would give approval. Having heard what Philippa has to say, are we comfortable with moving ahead with that? Or? That was who moved? Kristen, who was the mover for that?
Sorry, I don't know who the mover was for that.
Anybody any questions for Philippa or any comments they want to make? Well, hearing none, I'm going to assume that we're comfortable with that motion remaining on the table, so I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, thank you very much, Philippa.
Thank you.
We no contact with Sarah? We do. There she is. Sarah, we're looking at the flood mitigation project. So the route planning funding opportunity. Would you like to just give us a brief rundown?
Certainly, Chair. So these are two funding streams that have had reports come before the board previously, and these are amendments or new resolutions to cover some opportunities that have arisen in the meantime. So the first of these is the November 6th deadline for the evacuation route planning stream, where previously we had been looking to apply to this fund for some modelling in the Upper Squamish Valley area. However, since then, discussed with my colleagues in Squamish and the village of Pemberton to rather each take our $25,000 allotment that we can apply for, join them together for a $75,000 joint project to run an evacuation exercise, a flood-focused evacuation exercise in the district of Squamish and environs and the village of Pemberton and environs. So I believe these are coming to the chair and council of the district of Squamish and the village of Pemberton on November the 3rd. And the deadline is November the 6th. So coming before the board now to take this more partnership approach and to reach for essentially a greater bucket of funding for a joint exercise.
So let me interrupt you at that point then. It would be useful for you to have a resolution to approve that before we move on to something else, or does it do we do the whole?
Unless there are questions or objections, I think we can take them together, but entirely your preference, Chair.
Okay, that's fine. Keep going then.
So the other one is the upcoming November 20th deadline for the structural flood mitigation. So previously we had proposed $650,000 of this available $750,000 grant to sediment removal on the Lillooet River, $60,000 for 2 gauges, one on the Miller River and one on the Ryan River, and $30,000 for replacing a leaking flapgate in the Gannon Ditch in the Pemberton Valley. And since then, happily, the gauge on the Ryan River, the PVDD has reached an agreement with federal and provincial authorities to 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 fund that. So we don't actually need to apply for that item any longer. And the other one, the $30,000 estimated to replace the Gannon Ditch flapgate, the PVDD has found another more cost-effective way to address that. So we no longer need to apply for that amount, which left us with about $70,000 worth of headroom that we could apply for in this grant. And in the meantime, an opportunity arose for another partnership project with Simon Fraser University and Flynn Road to monitor mass flows from Mount Cayley, which Mount Cayley regularly sends debris flows down Mud and Terminal Creek in the upper Squamish area in the location of the Squamish River FSR. And it's certainly having currently unmeasured effects on sedimentation and erosion along the reach of the Squamish River between there and down to the district of Squamish. So we have an opportunity for a partnership with the Centre for Natural Hazards Research and Flynn Road. They've agreed to put in $45,000. I'm proposing that we apply $70,000 towards probably mainly postdoctoral and field staff, and Simon Fraser University contribute the centre and their computing power and their modelling research and the appropriate experts. So that is the amendments that I'm proposing to the upcoming funding applications.
Hey, thank you. Any questions of Sarah? Okay, so we need a resolution that encompasses all of the VATs that are contained in that report. Director Elliott moves, Director Richmond seconds. Okay, I'll call the question. All in favour? Opposed? Motion carries. There you go, Sarah. Everything.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, 16, Director's Notice of Motion. Do we have anything, Melanie? Director's Notice of Motion?
No,
okay.
Chair, thank you.
In that case, we'll recess this meeting and we come together again tomorrow for our committee of the whole, and then the rest of it until we get to adjournment. There we go. So we are